Hello again, lovely people of the internet. I had a request from one of you to if I could do a video on stamping and how to get a good stamping result. That's hence why I'm doing this video today. So when I first started crafting and using stamps, I bought some acrylic blocks of various different sizes. So the idea with these is that you stick a stamp onto there. I'm just going to try and find out some stamps to test out. You stick a stamp on it and then you stamp that with ink and then stamp it onto the card. So let's give it a go. I'm using a set here and one of my new ones from Clearly Besotted from their January 2021 release called Perfect Valentine with these absolutely adorable kitties. So I think it's probably a good idea. I think I'm going to focus this video mainly on stamping sentiments. I might cover images too, but I'm thinking definitely stamping at first. So, I love you, but I hate Valentine's Day. So, there's various different acrylic blocks of different sizes here. I'll move the stamping platform to one side because that's something we'll come to in a minute. I don't know the brands of these, they're just in my stash, but they come in different sizes and different types. This one's got rounded edges and is quite thick. These are smaller and have grid lines on them. This one has one sort of grid line kind of thing, and the idea is that you stick on the stamp. The grid lines help you to line it up so that it's straight. So, for example, with this one, you could use that line there to stamp, to ensure that that's straight. So you can't just use these just with your fingers and then just like pick it up and stamp it. That's not going to work. I don't think it would work anyway. I haven't tried it, but I don't think it would work. And also when you get new stamps, from what I have gathered from watching many YouTube videos and also from my own experience, priming the stamps by sort of rubbing them with a clean finger or something like a microfiber cloth. So one of these cloths that you can pick up from all over the place, or a Jiffy or a J cloth, I never know what to call them. This one's quite dirty actually, it's got bits of ink all over it that needs to go in the wash, but just sort of giving it a wipe. And as you can see, it sort of takes some of the shine off it, and it just helps the ink to adhere a bit better. So let's see how this stamps. So I've got a couple of inks here. These are sort of some of my go-to inks. We've got a Memento Tuxedo Black dye ink, which is my go-to dye when I just want to stamp something in matte black. It's fast drying. And it's also compatible with alcohol markers, which is what I like to colour in images with predominantly, although I do use watercolours and pencil crayons as well. This one here is VersaFine Onyx Black, and this one is a pigment ink, and it says it's pigment ink for fine details, and it is really good also for giving fine details, which is useful in stamping. This one takes longer to dry, being a pigment ink, than a dye ink. So let's stamp this image or this sentiment on a bit of card with both inks, and I'll clean them in between with a baby wipe, and we'll see how we get on. So I've lined it up, I've primed it, I've got a wet baby wipe to one side, and let's have a go. So if you turn it over, you can see that you can see through the acrylic blocks. So it's going to give you a good idea of where you want to stamp it on your card. You know, if you, say if I had various images and I sort of wanted to put it here, you can sort of hover it over and then stamp it. So let me ink this one up. Have a look. Okay, unfortunately I've managed to get ink all over there as well, which does happen quite often, and you don't need to wipe it off, but I like to because I worry that it's going to go somewhere that I don't want it to go. So you saw that how I stamped that, and let's just see how it stamps. I'm going to try and get it to the top right hand corner, pressing it quite firmly. That's stamped pretty well. It's got a bit splodgy there though, but I did notice that when I stamped that, and you can see there it's still got some splodgy bits in it. So let's try and repeat that. So I'm cleaning it off with a baby wipe. You don't have to use baby wipes, you could just use water and a cloth like this, and then normally what I do is I just put them off to one side on another glass mat, just like a cheap glass cutting board that I've got, and just leave it to dry naturally. But for the purposes of this, let's use a microfiber cloth actually. Obviously I'm trying to dry it so we can do this. Let's try it again, and I'll try and not be as hard with it. That looks pretty perfect to me. Yep, good even coverage. The T's not perfect. It's got all the E, but I think that's pretty good enough, to be honest. So let's have a go with the pigment ink so you can see any difference, or if there is any difference. The trouble with drying it with a microfiber cloth is if any of the fibres stick to it, which is always a possibility. I guess I could use a different stamp. That looks okay. Right, so we're going with the VersaFine ink this time. So again, I didn't press hard, but just firm. Oh, and look at that. That's come out beautifully. That's come out, see how that's like thinner? It's like come out finer, and I can't see any imperfections on that. Maybe a tiny little bit on the bottom of the D that hasn't stamped all the way through, but I would say that's pretty bang on. Let's give it another go. So I'll bring it into shot. So I'm just pressing like a sort of medium firmness. Again, I think that looks pretty perfect, to be honest. And you can see that the lines on the last two are thinner, so it seems to be that the pigment ink gives a sort of a finer, crisper detail. Not too dissimilar from that one, but definitely different from that one. But that was the first time that we used a stamp, and often the first stamp with a stamp, to be fair, isn't that great, I find. So I think if we You can give that one. We can leave that one now. I'll just leave that over there to dry on one side. And there's no point really me trying these other ones out because they work in the same way. But one thing I do think is really cute is when you've got something like really small, like in this pack. I'm going to pick this like teeny little mouse. Pick this teeny little mouse. So I'll put him there. Try and put him straight. Again, the grid lines help. My fingers are quite clean, so just rub that a little bit. And we'll try this with the pigment ink first this time. Oh, didn't get his ears. Let's try again. That could be my stamping technique. Yeah. So it's a bit thicker than I would have liked at the bottom, but that might be my pressure. Let's have another go. Try and press more lightly this time, a bit more evenly. I didn't get his ears again. Let's try again. Yeah. That one's pretty perfect, that one. So I think sometimes it's a bit of trial and error, finding out what pressure you have to use, and you know, like, I mean, this tiny little block, it's very small. It's 1 inch square. So, I mean, there's not much to work with really there. So it's going to be harder to get a more accurate stamp on that. But it is handy sometimes, I find, to use a tiny little stamp like that. Let's try it with the memento. That looks pretty much exactly the same to me. Yeah, perfect, crisp. So I think we'll ignore this top one because that was the first time that I'd used it, and just say that, like, that's an example of memento, and these are examples of VersaFine in terms of stamping sentiments. But to say VersaFine does take longer to dry, but you can see it doesn't take that long for it to dry. This one might smudge if I rub it. No. No. So it's known that they take longer to dry, but it hasn't taken that long. So it's another little test. There's something I've been meaning to try for a while. I bought these rocker blocks. These are a different way of stamping. And these are by Crafter's Companion. They come in a range of different sizes, and I haven't tried them yet. I bought them when there was a really good sale on, and basically they came with a set of free images, stamps. So it was an absolutely fantastic deal that I just couldn't resist, to be honest. So let's try these rocker blocks, because I'm trying to show you the different angles. So basically, this is the idea with this, is that you put it on and then you roll it. So it's not loads. Let's get it more into shot. You sort of roll it like that. Let me read the instructions and see what it says. Adhere your unmounted rubber stamp to a rocker block. We recommend using our revolutionary stick and spray, but any adhesive should work well. Ink up your stamp with lots of light tapping until the whole raised area of the rubber stamp is covered in a layer of ink. Make sure that you're using an ink stamp suitable for your card or paper. Place the mounted stamp down onto the stamping surface, resting on the bottom edge of the depth gauge, and then rock the stamp forwards and lift back up from the paper. Okay, so this seems to be saying that it's for rubber stamps and not acrylic stamps, but I'm wondering whether acrylic stamps would work with it. Let's try. It's just an experiment. It's fine if it doesn't work. Let's pick one of these. This is another one of my new stamps from Clearly Besotted from the Laugh Out Loud collection. I like this one, it's very cute. Let's grow old and grumpy together. So let's see if this sticks to this. I'm imagining that it will, to be honest. And it has got a line along the middle, so let's try and line that up. Because obviously with your sentiments, you want them to be straight. Okay, and obviously I haven't used this before, so I'm priming it a bit with my fingers. Giving it a little rub. Let's try this with the VersaFine. So I'm going to bring the stamp, but it says to lightly tap on the rubber stamp, so I'm assuming you would do the same with this. So let's turn this the other way. Oh, upside down. Okay, so if I want this to be at the top, let's do it like this. So do that. Ah, okay, that gave a lovely crisp stamp. The together goes up a bit, but I think that's the way I've positioned it on the stamp. Yeah, it definitely is, I can see it. So I'm just going to move that over a bit. Let's try that again. When I'm using the same colour, I don't tend to clean it, and you know. So let's say I want to do, because if I was doing a sentiment stamp, I would usually do it right up against the edge, and then I only have to cut the top and the side. So if I wanted it to be there, which I probably would, I would do that. Oops. Line it up. I would do that, and then that's a really nice stamp again. Again, it does go up slightly at the end, but I think that's just the way I've positioned it. I think I just need to play with it a bit. Just move it. But yeah, so even though the packaging is talking about using it with rubber stamps, you definitely can use it with non-rubber stamps. So these are photopolymer. I'm going to try it with the Memento as well. Give it a try. Try not to get any fluffy bits in there. Where's my little Memento? So I've got my big Memento, and then I've got my little Memento Dewdrop, which is exactly the same, but when I'm stamping sentiments, I use a smaller one because it's less likely to get ink all over the stamping block or stamping platform. Try this again. So another nice result. That together's still going off a bit, but God might do worse. Don't know how. bottom one's all right. Let's try and do it the other way. Oh, that looks pretty good. That's much straighter, and it's a pretty good impression. There's a slight bit of lightness on the old, but you can't even tell the difference really between the two. I mean, the VersaFine one I think was that one, which was a bit darker. It is like a bit darker, but in terms of crispness, they're both pretty crisp. Yeah, so that is acrylic blocks, both these rocker blocks, which I've never tried before, and regular acrylic blocks, I guess you would call them. Now let's try what has become my method of choice, which is a stamping platform. Okay, so this is a stamping platform by Nellie's Choice, and I bought this from eBay. I checked yesterday and they are still available from various different sellers. They come with 2 magnets which hold your cardstock in place. I've put washi tape around mine just because it's a bit easier to control them rather than using little bits of just using the actual little magnets. You can pick them up with that, so that's the only reason they're there. So with a stamping platform, it's always a good idea to start with the card in one corner, and the reason I like it is because if you have any areas that you think, oh, that didn't stamp very well, for example, the ears, what you can do is, well, I'll show you. Let's stamp something a bit more difficult. Oh no, let's stamp another sentiment. We'll go with another one from the same set that I just used, which is quite funny. I love you with all my belly, it's bigger than my heart. Ha ha ha. So, again, you can see that it sort of lifted it up a little bit, so we'll make sure that it's pushed back down into the very corner. It's a new stamp, so we prime it with our fingers, just to hope that it gets off any of the residue from the manufacturing process. And let's try this with the VersaFine. So gently tap. And as you can see, that's a pretty good stamp. I love you with all my belly, it's bigger than my heart. I would say that's pretty perfect, to be honest. We'll try the other end. We'll try with the Memento. So I'll give it a quick clean. The door of the stamping platform can also get a bit dirty. But again, you just clean it in the same way with baby wipes or water. I'm only discussing dye inks and pigment inks today. I'm not going into solvent based inks or archival inks, things like that, things like StazOn, which are more like permanent ones, like that enable you to stamp on non-porous surfaces, so like stamping onto plastic and stuff like that, which you can't do with these inks, and that's purely because I haven't experimented enough. I haven't used them, to be honest. I find I just find them a bit scary, which seems really stupid, but I guess I just find them a bit scary, in case I end up getting ink, black ink everywhere. But what was I saying? Right, let's try it with the Memento. And where's my little dewdrop? And the tip with stamping platforms is don't overload it, because you can do more impressions. You don't have to press too hard. It's better to do, see, that's not quite as crisp and clear, but if we do another one, that should look a lot better. So you just have the option of going over your sentiment basically with another layer to darken it up and make it more like you want it. There you go. That's a pretty nice crisp image there. I'm quite happy with that, and it looks pretty similar in terms of the depth of colour to that one as well. So yeah, I really like stamping platforms because of that feature of being able to go over again if there are any missed spots. Now, you know, it is a bit of an investment in some ways, but I mean, in other, it is an investment. I guess it all depends on you. I mean, this, I think, I checked in my eBay history, and I think I got this for $16.99. I can't remember if there was postage, but that's how much it was about a year ago. And, you know, to buy a bundle of a range of different sizes of stamp blocks, you know, can be either half that price or you know, quite a bit more. So to me, I find that this gives me the peace of mind that I can make mistakes and just keep going over it, and it's going to be fine. I can restamp as many times as I want to. So let's pick. So we've done sentiments. Let's pick and have a look at some other types of images. So for example, I really just, you just know I just want to stamp these kisses because they're so goddamn cute. So this one looks like he's really bored and fed up of reading this romance novel. So let's stamp him, and let's use this one. So we can use, it's got, I'm trying to make sure I'm in shot. It's got grid lines, so we can do that. Give him a good rub. So, you know, you can get good results with stamping blocks, as you've just seen. And you can also get good results with stamping platforms. And I think a lot of it is just personal preference. And I do use a mixture. There are occasions where I reach for my stamping blocks. I try to decorate the envelope flaps of cards that I've made, and I'll often use little ones where I've got like little flower images and things. Right, let's stamp this in VersaFine. Give it some gentle taps. Stamp this kiddo. Press quite firmly. Perfect. Really crisp, perfect stamp. And so that was the VersaFine ink, the pigment-based ink, so that's going to take a little while to dry, which is fine. Let's try next the Memento, the dye-based ink. After I've cleaned off the stamp. I wouldn't normally like colour stamp and then clean and then use again, so, and especially with it being water based, I don't want any bits of water left on here to sort of ruin the or skew the stamping process, if you get what I mean. Oh, of course you would get what I mean, it's not that difficult what I'm saying. I'm stamping it until it looks like it's got enough ink on there, because the thing is, I've only got one shot at this. I mean, I haven't, because I've got more card, but you know, it'd be nice to get it in one go. That's another really crisp stamp. Not quite, like fractionally less crisp than the other one. I can just see, if you, this is only if you're being really finicky, to be honest, just the shadow of the book and by his ear, but that wouldn't put me off. I would quite happily colour that and then just go over any black bits I wanted to be blacker using a black gel pen. So I think that's pretty good. How about we try using a coloured ink, stamping with a coloured ink. Because there are so many different brands of ink, and you know, I mean, that's like a whole video series, let alone one video. But let's just try. What other sort of colour would you stamp that in? I might stamp that in like a grey or something. And I do so happen to have one here called Pebble. So this is a Finesse by Spectrum Noir, a waterproof dye, non-smear with watercolour. So this is a pigment ink then? Quick drying and smudge proof with water-based ink for a crisp detail every time. And it's saying you can use it with watercolours. So I don't know if that's pigment or I don't know what kind of ink that is, to be honest. I got that in a bundle when I was buying there were a few different ink types in a bundle that I wanted. I think I was after a couple of them, and so this was in the bundle with it. So yeah, and I think it's a dark grey. That's okay. It's not as crisp as the others, but I have just cleaned it, haven't I? So I might not have cleaned it properly, to be fair. I think we should give that another go so it's a bit more fair. That's crisper. And again, not quite as dark in the eye. I must not have pressed as hard there, but that's again still a decent image, and it's pretty. It's like a very, very dark grey, that colour. So again, I'd probably be quite happy to go over that with a gel pen. I'd find that a usable image. Yeah. And then let's stamp him in the stamping platform. I think that has stained my stamp. I've got a feeling that that's one of those like archival type ones, or ones that yeah, the other ones didn't stain it. But it's not a problem, it's just that now you can see through. You can see, if you know what I mean, you can see when you look through the outline, whereas before it was clear. Anyway, let's stamp him on the stamping platform. So again, cardinal rule of thumb, put the card right to the edges, and I'll stamp him here. Yeah, see, I've cleaned that and it hasn't all come off. So I think that's one of them there ones that I said that I don't play with because they scare me a bit, because they might stain and not come off. But I have used it for something before. They're not really scary. You can't be scared by stamps, Tez. Come on. That's nice, that's quite crisp, although I want it to be a bit darker there and by his ear. So I'm just gonna go over that again. This is the memento. And that's the beauty of it. So you make sure that it's lined up still, which, there you go. Okay, that's quite a bit darker. I think what I did you see, like it sort of shut the lid a little bit? Let's move this round again. Oh, I've got to try and get it in the same place. I'll put it there. You should only need one go this time because it's already got a bit of residual ink on it. You can also give it a bit of welly. A bit firmer. That's pretty good. I don't think it's shifted. It's not in the corner, but I don't think it's shifted. I think the fact that I shifted it before made that line so thick. Just do it very lightly. Yeah, that's grand. So that's a lovely crisp image. Clean it off again. And yeah, there we go. So that was a basic introduction to stamping with acrylic blocks and a stamping platform, using both sentiments and a creature stamp. I know that that one's dried, you can see is more of a pebbly grey colour. Hope you found that useful. Any questions, anything that I haven't explained properly, or anything that you'd like to know more, any requests for future videos, please pop them below in the comments. If you found this helpful, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. That would really help me and help my channel to grow. And to ensure that you don't miss out on any future videos, if you click the little bell, you'll get a notification when I release a new video. So many thanks, see you soon, bye.